Today we're going to be discussing the case system. Cases have to do with nouns. In English, we don't have cases. In Greek, there are four main cases. There's the nominative case, there's the genitive case, dative case, and accusative case. Now, what we have here is the singular forms of the definite article. And by definite article, I mean the word the. Now, why do I have forms of the definite article when discussing the case system? Well, the definite article, it declines or it changes, it morphs according to the case, just as nouns do. But the definite article is consistent and it only ever morphs one way. Like, for example, this line right here is the masculine. This line here is the feminine, and this is the neuter. Those are the three genders in Greek, and they're all singular. And then if we go across this way, this is the nominative forms of the masculine, feminine, and neuter. This is the genitive forms of the masculine, feminine, and neuter. This is the dative forms, masculine, feminine, neuter. And this is the accusative forms of masculine, feminine, and neuter. So that's the definite article always looks like that. And one of the reasons why I like to focus on the definite article when discussing the case system and nouns is because some nouns are regular, and sometimes you can look at a form of a noun and you might not be able to parse it, that is, figure out its case. But if you look to its corresponding definite article, you will be able to if you know this chart. So the definite article is the key to parsing or understanding the nouns. So, what do we mean by case? What is a case? Obviously, it's a very important question to be answered. A case is just how the word declines or changes, and in changing, it shows the relationship between the nouns. So, in English, we don't have cases, we use prepositions. A preposition is a word like in, or with, or to, or for, or of, those kind of words that describe the relationship between nouns. So you could say, the word of God, for example. You got two nouns, the word and God, and then you would use the preposition of to show that the word is being possessed, like God is possessing the word, or the word is from God, however you interpret the word of in that context. So the nominative case right here, these are the definite articles. Let's look to some examples. And today we're going to be just focusing on the nominative and the genitive. The next episode I'll focus on the dative and the accusative. The nominative case right here, so ho logos, which means the word. The nominative case is the basic form of the word. If you look up this word in the dictionary or the lexicon, this is the form that you get. So it's the naming case, the basic form of the word. It's also the subject in the sentence. Now, the subject in the sentence is, like, for example, in English, if you were to say, the child throws the rock at the house. Well, the child would be the subject because they are the ones who are doing the action. And the rock would be the direct object because it is being directly affected by the verb. And then the house would be the indirect object. And we know it's the indirect object. You usually use the preposition to or for to answer that. So it's being indirectly affected by the verb. So here we have an example. We got ho logos and ho theos, both in the nominative form. These are both its basic forms of the word. Ho theos means God. Now if we take ho theos and we make this construction here, and we put ho theos in the genitive case, so we got a sentence, very simple sentence, ho logos tu theou. Now if you notice right here, this definite article genitive case. We go back up to our chart. Here it is right here. Now the masculine is the exact same for the genitive as the neuter. They look the same. But that omicron u is characteristic of the genitive case. So hologos is the nominative case. It's the subject, and then hotheos, which is its normal form, was now put in the genitive to theou. So with this together, it means the word of God. So genitive mostly shows possession. That's mostly what it does. There are other ways in which a genitive functions, but it's probably most common and basic understanding how the genitive functions is that it shows possession. Let's look at another example here. You take the word he gune. This means woman. So this is the nominative form. As you can see, the definite article right up here, that's the nominative of the feminine singular. So he gune. And then let's take another word, say he gay. This is also the nominative form. This word means earth. So this is its most basic form. Again, what's characteristic of the feminine nominative singular is he, just the letter he with a rough breathing. Now if we take he, gay, and put it in the genitive, right, so the eta and sigma, this is characteristic of the genitive for the singular feminine right here. That's the definite article. And we have he gune tes gays. This would translate as the woman of the earth. That's how you would translate this. Now there's another way that I want us to understand how the genitive can function, and you don't want, I'm going to use some terms. You don't want to get confused by the terms. It's not a big deal if you even memorize the terms, but you just need to know how the genitive functions different ways. So here's an example. Let's take this word, he agape, which means love. This is the nominative. And we take the word hotheos, which of course is also the nominative. And let's form a sentence with these two words, put theos in the genitive. So he agape to theou, which would translate to the love of God. Now in Greek, there's what's called an objective genitive and a subjective genitive. So it's no different than in English with the word of. If in English, if we were to say hey agape, in English, if we were to say the love of God, it can essentially mean two different things. On the one hand, it can mean loving God, right? The love of God, us loving God, or the love of cheeseburgers or French fries. You love cheeseburgers or French fries. Now, that's maybe a kind of a ridiculous example, but nevertheless, it demonstrates the point. So, on the one hand, it can be objective, that is, God being the object of the love. So the love of God, or like loving God, meaning loving God, our love of God. But it can also mean God's love. So it can mean one of two things. It can either mean our love for God or God's love, right? The love of God in English can mean those two things. It can also be subjective, that is, the love of God referring to God's love. It's no different in Greek with the genitive case. He agape to theou can mean, it can be objective or subjective. It can refer to God's love, the love being possessed by God, or it can refer to God being the object of the love, which would imply a separate someone else loving God. So, yeah, to sum it up, again, we're just focusing on these things right here, which is the nominative case and the genitive case. And to summarize, the nominative case is the subject, or it's the basic form of the word. In the genitive case, as we discussed, it mostly functions as possession. So, and I'm going to do different videos explaining more in detail on how to understand the genitive more fully, but this is a good introduction, I think, in the nominative and the genitive. I hope this helps. Please like and subscribe. Thank you.